Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gen Z Unfiltered, the podcast where we explore major world events through a young person's perspective. Hi, I'm Arunima, and today we're talking about a crisis that most people haven't heard much about, despite its enormous impact on global trade, international politics, and thousands of ordinary workers. Imagine being stuck at sea for months, not because of a storm, not because of a mechanical failure, but because a war has turned one of the world's most important waterways into a dangerous military zone. Thousands of sailors from countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, South Korea, China, and many others are currently trapped in and around the Strait of Hormuz, unable to return home to their families. Today, we'll explore what is happening, why it matters, and what this crisis reveals about the hidden human cost of global conflict. Let's begin. So, what's happening? The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. Located between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, it serves as the main route through which oil and natural gas from the Gulf reach the rest of the world. In fact, around one fifth of the world's oil and gas supply normally passes through this narrow passage. That means what happens here affects everyone, from governments and businesses to ordinary people filling up their cars or paying electricity bills. However, following the outbreak of war between the United States of America, Israel, and Iran earlier this year, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and severely restricted shipping traffic. As a result, approximately 1,600 ships have become stranded within the Gulf region. More than 20,000 sailors remain trapped on board these vessels, unable to leave and uncertain about when they will return home. While some ships have managed to pass through after diplomatic negotiations, many remain stuck. For the sailors on board, each day brings uncertainty. Moving on, let's look into life on a ship in a war zone. When we think about war, we often picture soldiers on battlefields. But this crisis reminds us that civilians can become trapped in conflict too. One sailor interviewed by the BBC described how strange the situation feels. From the outside, the sea appears calm and peaceful. Yet, inside the ships, anxiety and fear dominate daily life. Missiles have flown overhead, military aircraft patrol the skies, explosions have occurred nearby, debris from attacks has fallen into surrounding waters. Imagine trying to sleep knowing that military strikes could happen at any moment. Imagine calling your family every day and having no idea when you'll be able to come home. Many sailors report feeling constantly stressed. They jump at unexpected sounds, they struggle to rest. Even after the ceasefire announced in April, military activity in the region continues to remind them that the situation remains unstable. One engineer described witnessing horror and devastation with his own eyes. Others have spoken about the emotional exhaustion that comes from living under constant uncertainty. For many, the greatest challenge isn't just physical danger, it's the psychological pressure of being trapped with no clear end in sight. Now let's focus on the growing humanitarian challenge. As weeks turned into months, another problem emerged: supplies. Ships depend on regular deliveries of food, drinking water, fuel, and other necessities. Although some supplies can still reach stranded vessels, the process has become more expensive and less reliable. One Bangladeshi ship recently paid around $11,000 for water that would normally cost less than $2,000. That's more than five times the usual price. Food supplies are also becoming limited. Fresh vegetables and other nutritious foods are increasingly difficult to obtain. And as temperatures rise across the Gulf region, the demand for water becomes even more urgent. Summer temperatures can reach 45 degrees Celsius. Without sufficient supplies, conditions aboard these ships could become much more difficult. The situation highlights how conflicts often create secondary crises. The problem isn't only missiles and military action, it's also access to basic necessities. The most important part: why this matters to the world. You might be wondering, Why should someone living thousands of kilometers away care about ships stuck in the Gulf? The answer lies in globalization. Our modern world is connected through trade. Products we use every day travel across oceans before reaching our homes. Oil fuels, transportation systems, natural gas powers industries and homes, fertilizers support agricultural production. When shipping routes become disrupted, the effects spread across the global economy. Prices can increase, supply chains can slow down, businesses can face delays, governments may struggle to secure essential resources. The Strait of Hormuz is particularly important because of the enormous volume of energy resources that move through it. Whenever instability threatens this route, markets around the world pay attention. But beyond economics, this story also demonstrates how geopolitical tensions can affect ordinary workers who have no role in political decision making. The sailors trapped at sea did not create this conflict, yet they are living with its consequences every day. Moving on, let's hear the human stories behind the headlines. One of the most powerful parts of the story is hearing directly from the sailors themselves. Among them is a cook from Pakistan whose contract is nearly finished. All he wants is to return home. He talks about bringing gifts for his children, Barbie dolls for his daughters, a toy airplane for his son. It's a simple dream. Yet, months later, he remains stuck at sea. Every day, his family asks when he will return, and every day, he has no answer. This story stood out to me because it reminds us that global events are not just statistics. Behind every number is a real person, a parent, a child, a family waiting for someone they love. Sometimes, when we discuss international relations, diplomacy, or security issues, it's easy to focus only on governments and leaders. But stories like this, they remind us that ordinary people often bear the greatest burden. So, what happens next? What solutions exist? At the moment, diplomacy appears to be the most realistic path forward. Several countries have been negotiating with Iran to secure passage for ships. Some vessels have successfully crossed the strait through diplomatic agreements. However, political complications remain. For example, reports suggest that some countries considered paying fees demanded by Iran only to face pressure from the United States regarding sanctions. The longer the situation continues, the more difficult it may become. Crew contracts are expiring, mental health concerns are growing, economic losses are increasing, and many sailors are beginning to question whether they want to continue working in the maritime industry at all. This raises important questions about the future of international shipping and the protection of civilian workers during such conflicts. The Strait of Hormuz blockade is more than a story about ships and trade routes. It's a story about people. It's about sailors who wake up every morning uncertain of what the day will bring. It's about families waiting for loved ones to return home. It's about the way global conflicts can affect individuals who are far removed from the decisions being made by governments. As young people, we often hear about international politics in terms of power, alliances, and military strategy. But understanding world affairs also means understanding the human consequences behind those headlines. The next time you hear about a conflict on the other side of the world, remember that somewhere, someone is living through its effects in ways we may never fully see. Thank you for listening to Gen Z Unfiltered. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and join me next time as we explore another important issue shaping our world today. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep looking beyond the headlines.